it also is the first time that someone has moved in that direction, like between these two countries since the slave trade, which I think is, I don't know, that hits me in my stomach a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. But at the same time, I think it's so good that the people of Barbados and the people of Nigeria could establish for their benefit transit across space, across air and water that changed our lives, that displaced us forever. We looked at that same route and we said, you know what, we're gonna do this again, but this time it's gonna be for us. And I think it is absolutely amazing. Hello. My name is Kennedy Ray, and this is Power to the Diaspora. We took a little break there. I was on yet another side quest. Granted, my life is more like a collection of side quests than a main quest that I deviate from. But silence means that I have had time to think. And I love having me a little think. I have a few ideas for what my first episode back would be. I wanted to talk about polite Bajan drivers, or how closed and close communities in Barbados seem to kind of mimic the village life that I see depicted by African influencers like Akech Joy Winnie. Akech Joy Winnie is a model. She is often in the US or London traveling for the various fashion weeks. When she's not working in these cities, she is at home in her village and she lives both of those lives. It is amazing and I love her content, but we're not talking about her today. You should check her out. I watch her on Instagram, but I'm sure she's on everything. We will have to talk about those things another time, because you know the rule is, if someone who is nice enough to listen has a follow-up question, we have to talk about it. This one isn't a follow-up question. Someone just asked me what I thought about the comments on the Facebook post that Bajans were leaving about the new air bridge between the Caribbean and the continent of Africa, which is a direct flight from Nigeria to Barbados. I'm actually told this wasn't even originally something Barbados was involved in, but it actually was an agreement with Antigua and St. Kitts and Nevis, maybe? I should really check my notes. Now, as I mentioned before, in my effort to keep my sanity, I avoid the news. Even without seeing the Facebook comments on those posts, I was very worried about what I was going to encounter. I really thought that the comments were going to be awful. And it's because, you know, as respectfully as I can be, Barbadians can be extra ignorant when it comes to Africa, and it's not our fault, but it's our job to fix it, you know? We only recently started working on it, so we're gonna give everybody some grace. I was imagining horrible things when I was thinking about what these comments were gonna be. So my immediate reaction was to avoid it. So I never actually read those comments until today when I was prepping for this, because I actively avoid things I know will be unpleasant. I think that might be human instinct. If you're not actively avoiding things that you know will be unpleasant, I feel like I want to advise you to give it a try. While I was procrastinating reading these comments that I imagined were going to be terrible, I came upon an influencer who clearly must have come in on the flight, because the flight landed on the 24th of May 2026. Today is the 13th of June. So I imagine that he must have been on the very first flight. I wasn't just procrastinating. I was doing things. I didn't have the time to look into this, but now that I have, it's the 13th. And the influencer that I'm referring to is Sunjohn and Nuance. I'm sorry if I did a bad job, but I didn't hear anyone say his name, so I couldn't even study it. I believe he was on the plane that came in, like when I just pieced that together. And I also have concluded, is the nephew of either the owner of Earpiece or somebody who is very involved. And I arrived at this conclusion based on what he said in one of his videos. I didn't make it up, but at the same time, I stand corrected if necessary. In this particular video that I gathered my information from about him being the nephew of someone involved with Earpiece, he was offering to fly a pretty woman to Nigeria. And it was in this video that he mentioned his uncle. I don't remember it exactly. I don't want to directly quote it, what he said, but he mentioned his uncle and he was getting one of our local influencers a free plane ticket to Nigeria. Man, he loved the Bajan women, but they always do, don't they? And you know, there's that element of it, the sexualization of Caribbean women and so on and so forth. But I don't know. Don't people get to like what they like? He appreciated the sights. He appreciated the food. He said that God must live in Barbados. And also he appreciated the policewomen. And the tourist experience involves a lot of things. So we're gonna ease him as we talk about his content and talk about his experience that he had in Barbados. He's clearly here for business reasons. A whole Boeing 777 is flying from Nigeria, and obviously they need to get people on the plane. Despite his obvious and very reasonable motives, I love to see people from the continent of Africa react to Barbados. It's the way they see themselves in us, because they know the ways of their people and they see us and they're like, these are not our people. They're really far away, but damn. And they get so caught up in how everyone looks like them. This guy in particular, he highlighted a few, yes, pretty women. Yes, they were pretty women with names, with Igbo names that he knows and recognizes from at home. And I just was like, this is amazing. It really is. It's like watching the active exploration of some kind of three-dimensional puzzle. We're a part of this thing when we're observed that we cannot see. It is so spectacular, and I really enjoyed his content. No, I'm a woman of nuance. So his content did not only make me feel good things, but I mostly felt good things, you know? Like I said, I am a woman of nuance, and I also have a very particular taste in content. I'm sure we all do. So yes, Mr. Sunjohn and Nuance. Big personality, high energy, very... I'm going to use the word loud, and then I'm going to tell you why I shouldn't say that. I think that we, in Barbados especially, I'm going to talk about Barbados because that's the only place I'm from. We're not encouraged to be loud and expressive and just so big like that. Even though some of us are, I'm sure that there are people who will say that Caribbean people have big personalities. Absolutely. I still think that we are taught to be a little bit quieter. And if we think about why we're a bit quieter than our cousins from the continent, I feel that you can arrive at that conclusion. You don't have to talk about it. Please don't make me. If you ask me, I will, because those are the rules. But please understand what I'm saying. I acknowledge that and criticize myself for it all at the same time. His personality is a bit bigger than the influencers that I would follow. He's a bit louder. He's a bit more active. But also, I think that we're living in the post ice show speed internet era, and people have to behave like this because that is what performs well on the internet. There's so many layers to this. I am a woman of nuance. We're here to talk about the things that I think about, and you guys can tell me if you think about them too, right? His content is not my usual style, but anytime any kind of art is being made in Barbados, I'm locked in. I watched Outer Banks because they filmed it here. Like, I don't play. I love to see my home through other people's eyes. There is nothing like it. It's the highest form of entertainment, if you ask me. So I was locked in. I was sat. I watched as much of his content as I could because, I couldn't get through all of it, but I really took pleasure in seeing the way that Barbados inspired him and what he thought to show off. And I was in his comments too, because I was making sure my people were behaving. I'm not gonna lie. I wanted to make sure that there was nothing sus in those comments, and it was good. It was good. I don't know, somebody was trying to start an island war under one of his posts and said that Haiti responded to him a lot better. A member of the Bajan Diaspora came in, heavy hitter, to say that Haiti has a larger diaspora than Barbados, and that's the reason why. And I was like, that's a great returning shot. And I think that we thank you, whoever said that. You're doing good work and not embarrassing us in public. But I do also think that it is possible that less Barbadians were locked in than Haitians were. There's also this other little thing that I want to talk about, which is the ways that people who are from the continent of Africa are different than us, which is, I did not appreciate anything he said about the ancestors. Oh my God. I didn't. I felt like if he was as careless as any foreigner would be. And I appreciated that. I'm going to say it 100 times, I'm a woman of nuance, because I appreciated that. I don't think he has a responsibility to be more careful than the average foreigner or to be more understanding. I have had the experience of explaining to a person who was born on the continent of Africa. This, I think, was also a Nigerian, but I've had the experience of explaining that I'm from Barbados, and where is Barbados? And Barbados was the first stop from Africa for the slave ships. And he was like, huh? And I really was like, damn, that's crazy. And also he called me a half caste, which was unpleasant and strange. They really are just, there's so much to talk about. And I really hope that as I continue to record, I will find the words. But yeah, he was enthusiastic. I feel like his heart was in the right place, but I much preferred watching him interact with Barbados's luxuries. I felt like he was more in his element there, and he was able to interact with that better, because that's the other thing. We can't even conceptualize the wealth of rich Nigerians. I really am like, no, please let this be their spot. Rich Africans are balling out. And I'm going to say Africans in a general way because I feel like the continent of Africa is a place of wealth and luxury just as much as it is a place of the horrors that have occurred, right? It was and has always been both of those things at the same time. I just feel like if Barbados could become a playground for rich Africans, the tourist economy would boom. Just boom. No, culture, I think that with people from other countries, there's always culture concerns, but this is a tourist industry. Like, tourism is what funds this country, and there is a market, and we should be encouraging it, and we should be grateful that there are influencers who care enough to come here to encourage it because it is untapped. So he was hype. He was all about the place, running in circles in excitement for the taste of the food. And is it good enough to run in circles for? I don't know, but I hope it was. Okay, I feel like the real point is that he was showing this place love. Many times he was like, I'm in my mother's village. He said things like, you're not depressed, you're just not in Barbados. I wish I could remember more of them. His catchphrase is, this is gorgeous. When I tell you, showing this place love, because he just felt that when he was here, right? And of course, he has an agenda, which is to get people on that plane. But we want people on the plane, okay? We want people on the plane. In this episode, I want to talk about the love and the wealth of the African continent and why, as Barbadians, we need to not be the problem. Barbados is a beautiful place, but it is not a rich place, and it is not a self-sustaining place. Barbados has always been for the wealthy, or plantation brainwashing makes us think white people have money. But surely, in 2026, we can all agree that the wealth of the Western world is, if not dwindling, is changing. Power dynamics are shifting. New world powers are vying for that top spot. The US and the UK, they have battles to fight at home, and they just can't afford to invest in the Caribbean like they once did. That then makes us think, so who's to invest in the Caribbean? And the thing about investments is a person choosing to do something that they don't have to do, So you have to convince them that you're worth their money, right? I am always going on about how the world ended in COVID. So it's actually year 6. And we, the people who are left behind after the old world fell, we get to decide what the new world is going to stand for. And I, for one, think that the new world should be one of wealth and prosperity, right? So that begs the question, how does one prosper? How does a country prosper? And just like people, countries that prosper usually have to engage in some kind of successful business that makes money. They have to grow things and harvest things and mine things and make things and sell things. Because, if you want to make money, you get a job. So countries have to have jobs. I would say that Barbados as a country has a job, but it's not exactly good at its job, nor is it a big competitor in the industry. The rock in the middle of the sea with little to no oil reserves, who imports everything, is just not able to produce things at a competitive price. I have heard before that Barbados as a country should come up with a way to generate money so that we don't have to rely so heavily on foreign investment. And my question always is, make what? Do what? Sell what? I am friends with some economist types who say that Barbados's only hope of earning is through the luxury tourism market because regular tourism is not viable on the grounds that the middle class is not spending enough money and it's just too expensive to get here from Europe or the USA or Canada. Like, it just doesn't make sense to come here when you can go to Mexico or, I don't know, LA or Colombia or Brazil or somewhere in Europe. Barbados is always the more expensive choice. Recently, I have been fortunate enough to have done some traveling, and I gotta say, Barbados is no place to be. The cost of a night out splurging can get you a plane ticket to Isla Hot from Athens. Or you could even pop over to Italy. Like, if the only consideration was the price, no one would come to Barbados. Our product is not competitive. But if you throw your mind back to 6 months ago when you could not get anywhere on the road, the highway was always blocked because there was just so many hired cars. You could not drive through that bottom road in St. James. But people come here anyway because people gotta come to Barbados. I almost wish that I could be from somewhere else so that I could understand what it was about this place that caused people to spend just way too much money to vacation for not a lot of bang for their buck, and they still come. I don't know if there really is room in Barbados for more hotels. Hotel Indigo that they put in the middle of the road in Hastings has me a bit traumatized, but I'm choosing not to dwell on it. The point I think I was making is we need people to come here to the hotels. We need people in Barbados who can afford to ball out because let's be honest, a regular night in Barbados is basically balling out. By the time you order your third cocktail, yeah, you've gone through. I don't think people really understand how rich people from Nigeria get down. I encourage you to scroll through Sunjohn and Mosi's Barbados content and observe the private yachts, the nice restaurants, the table of Bajan food he said God prepared before him in the presence of his enemies. Oh my God. But no, honestly, like, that table of food looked like it was prepared in the presence of his enemies. Like, it was crazy. It was luxurious. It was everything. It was Barbados at its finest. This man had a time in this country. He really did. He's clearly a man who is accustomed to the finer things in life, and he's encouraging his followers, his friends, to pop over to Barbados, a place that can provide them with the luxuries they are used to, where everyone looks like you. And I love that for us. One of my favorite things to do is watch people from the African continent react to Barbados. You know, again, we're getting into some more nuanced territory because our lives are a lot less conservative than they're used to because we are similar but different. This other popular Nigerian influencer, Stephen Nduku, this guy's a travel vlogger, so maybe I shouldn't call him an influencer, but he travels all over Africa and all over the world, truly. He came to Barbados. Somebody told him he should check it out. He was completely taken with this place. He came here during crop over. He was shook. The elephant in the room is that the content from male African influencers is centered on the bodies of Barbadian women. Is not exclusive. They observe other things too. They always observe the money, the value of the money and how expensive things are. But this guy, He did not say anything was expensive in Barbados. And either is because he's here for a very specific purpose, which is encouraging people to come, or because he didn't find anything to be expensive in Barbados. And I suspect it is the latter. I'm getting off track. But the travel vloggers video is actually called I Visited the Island of Every Man's Dreams. He came during crop over, and of course, and he jumped. So the costumes, like the women in the street, he blurred over the costumes. Like I was really like, oh my God, are you blurring clothed women? But yeah, they were not clothed to them. And that is another reality, right? There is a sexual element to it, but we're doing these things already. Crop over is already happening. The costumes already look like what they look like. We might as well profit from it, as we have profited from it for many years before. But now a new demographic can tap in. A new market has opened up. And also, you have heard the bashment soca music for this year. Like, we're a part of the problem. I do not think we can condemn them for their woman and a woman and a woman and a rum approach to Barbados, because clearly that is the approach we're taking to ourselves. And you know, I love the songs too. Like I too am locked in on the she hate men but the men love she, because she bossy broad and she looks so sweet. I'm here for the weatherman and these super soakers, and leave me alone. If you like them other girls out there on the road, leave me alone. They're having a time. I think that the Barbadian youth right now are woman and woman and woman and rumming it. And the rich Nigerians want in. And I'm ready. Barbados could be Nigeria's Ibiza, a place where the wealthy come to live in an alternative universe. It's not like we aren't already doing it, right? Like, come to a place where everyone looks the same way the people look at home, but the rum is flowing, they're dancing in the street, the girls look good. I've always heard that Bajan women just look good, apparently, and I believe them. So we've gotten a little off topic, because we were supposed to be talking about the comment section on the Nation News reporting that Air Peace's flight will be landing in Barbados. No, it wasn't as bad as I thought. Honestly, I was expecting worse things. There was a lot of stuff about Ebola, and for the most part, that was it. I'm going to read you some of the comments though, because how could I not? What would be the point of this if I didn't read some of the comments? The 24th of May 2026, when Air Peace's first direct scheduled flight from Nigeria landed in Barbados, there were 0 confirmed cases of Ebola in Nigeria. However, the people were in the comments very concerned about Ebola. The comments were not perfect, but I felt like all the groups were represented, because the Ebola people were locked in for sure. Let's see, trying to find y'all an Ebola comment. Okay. I seem to not have been too interested in the Ebola comments and didn't screenshot them. But one of them I have here says, "Are checks being done for Ebola?" I guess I focused on the people who were defending the importance of this flight. Someone says, "I see people asking about Ebola. Last I checked, Ebola isn't a virus common to Nigeria. Nigeria had an outbreak in 2014 where a Liberian American flew into Lagos. 20 cases and only 8 deaths. This was in 2014. Ebola isn't found in Nigeria. Air Peace is a Nigerian plane and it left Lagos, Nigeria straight to Barbados. Somebody came through with the facts, like real facts. I was very appreciative. Then another person talking some sense, trying to educate the people, because under this comment, someone says, ladies working, make sure the mask up. Shake my head. Above that comment, another person says, the comments though, people are flying from countries where COVID and hantavirus are on the rise to Barbados on a daily basis, but there hasn't been any negative comment about that. Why can't some people appreciate the efforts made and then continue to ask about safety protocols? Such primitive minds. Yes, because y'all could get the white people's diseases. That is fine. Understood. Another person who I clipped because they had something sensible to say. I'm appalled at all the negative comments about people from Africa. Direct links to our ancestry are being dragged through the mud in these comments. The West has truly brainwashed our society, and we can see little positives coming from our end. And then it goes into stuff about house Negroes and rebellions and it's this guy tore them up. I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but the sensible people were there to defend this air bridge and say how important it is to us. I wanted to check and see if there's a real risk of Ebola. And y'all, there are Ebola outbreaks in the Democratic Republic of Congo and in parts of Uganda right now. Like, this is going on. However, Air Peace doesn't fly to either of these countries. Literally, they don't fly there. And 4 days before the flight left for Barbados, Nigeria's government released an official statement confirming that there were 0 cases in Nigeria and announcing that they would be reinforcing border health controls. So Nigeria was actively managing themselves when this flight left for Barbados, and in an over-managing kind of way because it wasn't a concern. So a direct plane flight from Nigeria to the Democratic Republic of Congo would be 3 hours, and a direct flight from Uganda would be 5 hours. I think that as small island people, we just can't conceptualize how big the continent of Africa is, how far away these places are. Yes, they're both in Africa, but Africa is a continent, is not a country. So we have to remember that. And again, we think that St. Philip is far, so we have to realize that our minds are just not expanding over the geography that other people's countries sit on. Yeah. Another comment that I saw was a long one, but it was, I think, a little relevant. It said, it's over $3,000 ticket price. This is for rich Nigerians. As a Jamaican living in Ghana, it's sad if the purpose is to connect us. Charging this much is not going to do that. Most Africans have to go through Europe or the USA to get to Barbados or Jamaica, and most cannot get a visa to do that. So the flight would be a game changer. And this person goes on to say that the ticket prices are outrageous. I feel like it costs about $3,000 for me to get to London. So plane tickets are really expensive in general, which is why I'm not traveling this year. And also, it's a really far way. Like, it's an 8-hour flight. It also is the first time that someone has moved in that direction, like between these two countries since the slave trade, which I think is, I don't know, that hits me in my stomach a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. But at the same time, I think it's so good that the people of Barbados and the people of Nigeria could establish for their benefit transit across space, across air and water, that changed our lives, that displaced us forever. We looked at that same route and we said, you know what, we're gonna do this again, but this time it's gonna be for us. And I think it is absolutely amazing, and I am thrilled to be alive at this time. The question of who is this for, who can afford this, it is for rich Nigerians. It is for rich Nigerians. Unfortunately, I don't think rich Bajans know that they should be flying to Nigeria, but hopefully they will learn. I'm happy that people are able to see themselves in us, even though we were raised in a place where we were told that the place that we're from, that our ancestors, that we are not good enough, not human enough, property. And now, as we live in the aftermath of the horrors that happened, we have much to unlearn. And I am so grateful that they have not forgotten us, like how we seem to have forgotten them. In addition to not understanding the size of Africa, I think we also don't understand the wealth of Africa. Because yes, the European powers did go on a spree, so people would not be able to see the wealth of Africa while, actively extracting that wealth for themselves. As I said earlier, this is the new world. It's year 6. And here we are at the beginning of a new direct connection between Barbados and the continent of Africa via Nigeria. I think we have the opportunity to learn what rich Black people look like, because we don't get to see them. We don't get to see them, but we're going to get to see them now. Because, all of the Black people on this side of the world, like on the Western world, are a result of slavery. So the poorest of the poor, people have worked hard, like families have come a great way, but no one's wielding 200 years of generational wealth. The rich Nigerians are. Rich Black people on the continent of Africa have been rich forever. And I think that there's some ethical problems that come along with that, like the way that bribery coming through ports, like airports and seaports on the continent, is super common, and you can't move unless you're willing to pay a bribe. But things can be like that in Trinidad too, so we can be too unreasonable. There's things that come with exposure to the uber rich, and we're not familiar with those things as a country, I don't think. Perhaps we're more familiar with bad European behavior, but we would now have to learn what bad Nigerian behavior looks like. We don't know, we don't understand. And all these things are true at once, When you have a tourist industry, you want tourists to come in, and my 2 cents is that rich Africans should get the opportunity to love Barbados, just like how rich Europeans have. And we could finally have an opportunity to get some money pouring into this country again. Money comes to Barbados simply because people love Barbados. It's her charm, it's her charisma. People love her. She's pretty. But being cute doesn't pay the bills, and we got to figure out how to pay these bills. I really think that being Ibiza for wealthy Nigerians could be a fantastic start. Just to pop away, So in conclusion, having checked those comments out, it's possible that I didn't see the worst of them. I know that you get shown comments by the algorithm based on what they think you want to see. However, even though there were those comments that were ignorant, I saw something about a direct flight for witchcraft as well. People saying things like, what in the voodoo? And I'm just like, sweet girl, that's your thing. Like, that has nothing to do with Nigeria. We made that. It's ours. Stop trying to push it off on them. Those comments were there, but they also were people underneath those comments, straightening those people out, letting them know that they were ignorant, letting them know that they were wrong. And that more so caught my attention. It helped me feel good. It helped me feel like if actually the comments weren't so bad. And also, you know, they're managing the Ebola in Nigeria. It's not an active problem. And we are at the beginning of what could be a fantastic opportunity for this island. And once a month, the flight isn't super frequent, it's expensive, it's all kinds of things. It's not perfect, but the fact that it exists is a start. And I can't tell you that I'm going to Nigeria next month. I'm really not. It's a bit daunting of a thought to me, to be honest, but I guess that's the next step, right? It's an opportunity for some Bajan travel influencer to make their booklet, to connect to Nigeria, make it hot, and get everybody in on it and know there is a flight. That's, not my ministry, but I see that there is many opportunities. And yes, I do not think the average Bajan can afford the flight, and maybe not the average Nigerian either, but Nigeria is a big place and they have a lot of rich people there. I really think that if people tap into these opportunities, this could be amazing. So those are my 2 cents on the comments on the influencers' reactions to Barbados, on everything being about how the girl's so sweet. But that's been our tourism model long before the 24th of May 2026. So I feel like it's wrong to condemn them for that. Y'all should watch Stephen and Kudo's video. I visited the island of every man's dreams, because it is entertaining as hell. It really is. I also encourage you to scroll through Sunjohn and Mousse's Barbados content just to see your island through his eyes, see if you can put your finger on what it is that everyone loves about this little place. And finally, this is episode 6. It is the 6th month. When I started this year, I had a very simple goal. It was to make 12 episodes. And I thought I was going to make more than 12 by now, I'm not going to lie, because I was moving with a little bit of pace. But I think this is a lesson in why you should set achievable goals, because now I can still feel good about myself, because I could definitely make 12 of these episodes. Until next time, thank you for tuning into episode 6. Tell somebody about something you learned. Share something that you've thought about. Engage someone in conversation about why we definitely need to encourage more luxury tourists in Barbados, more people who can afford to pay for these nice things that we have on this little rock in the sea. This has been Power to the Diaspora. I'm Kennedy Ray. I'll hear you next time I gather my thoughts up.